forward, face the clerk. Raise your right hand and be sworn.
Do you solemnly swear from the testimony about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may have a seat, Dr. Smith.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please tell us your name?
My full name is Dr. David Fintan Garavan, G for golf, A-R-A, V for Victor, A-N.
What is it that you do for a living?
I'm a forensic pathologist and toxicologist.
Can you explain to the members of the jury what it is that you do as a forensic pathologist and toxicologist?
Forensic pathology is a subspecialty of medicine. There are two types of pathologists. There's a hospital pathologist, also called a surgical pathologist. You'll know them by, if you go to your doctor and you have a lump, bump, rash, something that your doctor doesn't like, they'll take a biopsy or take some of it out, perhaps a breast lump, for example. That will go to a pathologist where it will be examined and they will make a diagnosis, which will then determine your treatment. Forensic pathologists have done all that, and then we go on to a further stage. The further stage is where we deal with the whole body, and we are concerned with the cause and the manner of death. So we take into account natural diseases, injuries, drugs, circumstance, which can cause the death of a human being in its looking at the whole body. We take into account the scene, the location, circumstances, how it happened, and we form an opinion as to the cause of death, and we form an opinion as a medical examiner. The state of Florida is a medical examiner state. There are no coroners in Florida. We also provide a manner of death, of which there are 5 choices: natural death, accidental death, suicide, homicide, or undetermined.
You mentioned something about also a specialty of forensic toxicology.
Yes, I also have a PhD in toxicology, and I work as a forensic toxicologist in addition to forensic pathology.
I'm going to guess that perhaps you did not grow up here in Miami, Florida.
I did not.
Could you explain to the members of the jury, where did you grow up and where did you get your education?
My home country is Ireland. I did all my medical training in Ireland. I did my PhD and my science training in Ireland. I came to the United States in 2006 for 1 year. 1 year. And I'm still there. I did my fellowship in forensic pathology here in Miami-Dade under Bruce Hyma, who unfortunately passed away, but I trained under him, and I stayed here for a couple of years thereafter. Subsequently, I have worked in many countries. I've worked in England, Liverpool, England. I worked in New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, Cook Islands.
Wait, speak up a little bit.
England, Samoa, New Zealand, Cook Islands, Australia, and I came back to the United States at the request of Dr. Hyma in 2015.
Are you a member of any professional organizations for forensic pathology?
Yes, I'm a fellow of the Royal College of Pathologists of London, for which I took my...
Do you need some water, sir?
Actually, that'd be great, please. I just drank a very strong coffee, compliments of the office clerk. Or the officer, I should say. Yes, so I'm a fellow of the Royal College of Pathologists, which is in London. I took my examinations there. I'm also a fellow of the National Association of Medical Examiners, which is the equivalent in the United States. I'm a dual fellow. I think that's a pretty unique. I don't think I'm not aware of any other person that has dual fellowships. I'm also there's quite a few. So I'm a member of the International Association of Toxicologists, the Forensic Society of Toxicology, the Association of American Forensic Sciences, I think are the main pertinent ones to this court.
Now, what does it benefit you to be a member of these different organizations?
Well, as a fellow of a college, it means that you have gone through the rigorous examination process. That process in London is a 3-day examination. So you have to actually perform an autopsy in front of examiners. You have to show that you can actually do what you claim you can do. They can give you any case. You don't have a choice in that. You have to sit a morning of written examinations. Yes, writing is still a thing. You have to actually write essays. And then there are 2 days of what we call long cases and short cases. And then at the end of that, on the third and last day, you have to do an oral defense. So it's 3 full days. The advantages of being members of the other professional organizations is that you stay in touch with what's current. You attend meetings, you keep yourself abreast, you have access to current information, which keeps you on top of your profession, which is useful.
Could you tell us a little bit about the types of deaths that you have investigated over the course of your career?
Many. Personally, I've done somewhere between 8,000 to 8,500 cases myself with my own hands. But as a supervisor and trainer, I would have probably directly supervised another 7,500. As an expert, been asked to review cases for whatever reason, you can probably add another 800 to 1,000 cases. I work all over the world. I work in New Zealand, I work in Puerto Rico, I work for the federal government, and I work for various states. I do defense as well as for the prosecution. But ultimately, I don't care who's asking me the question. You're going to get the same answer. It just depends on who's asking the question.
I want to ask if there was a time in your career after Dr. Haima had passed away that you came back and were, in fact, working at the Miami-Dade Office of the Medical Examiner.
I was.
And was there ever a time when you were there when a doctor by the name of Kenneth Hutchins was the chief medical examiner?
That's right, he was there, yes.
Is he still working as chief medical examiner of Miami-Dade County now?
He's retired.
Does the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office have a fellowship program?
Yes.
Could you explain what that is?
Fellowship program is the programs that exist. There are several in the United States. Approximately 40 to 45 doctors are taken on to various programs around the United States for what's called your finishing school or 1 year of fellowship. That is usually at your 13th or 14th year of training. So you're at the end of the road, you hope, and you spend a year in a program where you go through a dedicated training program to polish you, I guess, to bring you up to speed, to bring your skill sets up, to poke you, to push you, to see if you can take the stress and strain, if you're suitable. Not everybody is. But it's really an intensive year of training, at the end of which you're still not qualified. You still have to take the examinations.
Is it the case that there might be fellows who come to the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office for their 1 year program, get involved in perhaps conducting an autopsy, but then go off to wherever it is they're going to continue their work?
Yes, that happens every year. They're only there for 1 year. Most go somewhere. It may not be here. Some stay, but it's not usual. Most leave. They have families back to where they're from and so on.
Is it the case that if, for example, the fellow who worked on an autopsy, would that person be supervised by somebody who is here permanently?
Yes.
Now, if there was a situation where the chief medical examiner is retired and the person who conducted the autopsy under his supervision has moved to parts outside of the state of Florida, for example, would you be able, based on your training experience, be able to review that autopsy file to come up with your own impressions of what the cause and manner of death would be?
It's not unusual. Life is life. People move on. We don't live forever, or we retire. So cases can come to court after the fact, and in those circumstances, we should be able to sit down, review the case with the information available, and form an independent opinion. Because if the case is well documented, and it should be at a high standard, you should be able to review it and form an independent opinion.
I want to call your attention now to Miami-Dade Medical Examiner case number 2022 or 2022-02732.
Yes.
Have you become familiar with that case number?
Yes.
And in fact, in preparation for your testimony, were you given copies of all of the medical examiner notes, reports, photographs, and the like?
Yes.
In reviewing those documents, were they sufficiently thorough and detailed that allow you to tell this jury a bit about the cause of death of the person who was autopsied under that case number?
Yes.
Who was the medical examiner that oversaw that process?
Dr. Hutchins.
Do you know a woman by the name of Dr. Brittany Imblum?
I do not.
Is it your understanding from reviewing the notes that that is the doctor who was the fellow at the time working under the direction and supervision of Dr. Hutchins?
Yes.
First, I want to ask you about that case number that I read to you, 2022-02732. Can you explain what the significance of that medical examiner case number is?
Each case, when it arrives to the department, each case is assigned a unique number. They come in a sequence, so there's a case before and a case after, but there's a sequence of numbers, but they're all unique to that case. No other case will have that number.
And when you say case, are you referring to person?
I am referring to a person or an investigation of a death that may involve a whole, part, or some persons.
Now, in order to ensure that, let's say, photographs or specimens that are collected from that person or case will be only dealing with that person or case, is there anything done with that case number to ensure that it doesn't get confused with any of the other cases?
Well, in each case, the number ascribed to that case, for example, in the photographs, they'll all have the unique number present in the photographs. All samples will be labelled with that number. The case file will be labelled with that number. Everything that's generated for that case is attached with that number.
Do you know the name of the person who was assigned that case number?
I don't offhand, I do not.
Would reviewing the medical examiner autopsy report
Yeah,
help
and
you?
please, I just want to be clear, it's no disrespect to the deceased. We have to remain impartial, so I try not to learn the personal aspects of it.
Can you please take a look at this protocol and tell me if this is the protocol you reviewed for your testimony here today?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay. And what is the name of the person who was autopsied under that case number?
Lucy Fernandez.
What was her date of birth?
Her date of birth is not given in this protocol, but if you give me 1 second.
Would that be noted in the investigations report
It's
that
in
went
the-
along with this?
Which I do not have, correct. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is that the investigations report that was part of that case file for Luciana Fernandez?
Yes, it is.
And what was her date of birth?
It states that she's 17 years old. It does not give me a specific date of birth on that, on this file. At least I don't see it.
You don't see it under her name?
August 26, 2005, excuse me.
That's
yes.
okay. Does the investigations report also include information as to the date and time that she died?
Yes, it does.
What is that?
September 5th, 2022 at 6:30 a.m.
And where was it that she was pronounced deceased?
Kendall Regional Medical Center.
Are you aware of a type of photograph that's taken at the medical examiner's office called a legal ID photograph?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is, please?
It's a photograph taken of the person's face, usually upper neck and face, full features, to assist or be available to help with the identification, so it may be shown to a loved one or person familiar to confirm as part of that is the person that we think it is.
I'm showing you what is in evidence of State's Exhibit number 7. Now, you had the opportunity to familiarize yourself with the photographs that were associated with this case, correct?
Yes.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 7. Is this a legal identification photograph of Luciana Fernandez?
Yes.
I'm going to show you an exhibit. It's State's Exhibit number 1 in evidence. Do you know this person?
I do not.
Do you know any members of her family?
I do not.
Let's start with some basic information about Ms. Fernandez. How tall was she?
5'5".
How much did she weigh?
135 pounds.
When she was brought to the office of the medical examiner, did she have a condition known as anasarca? If I'm
She
not
did.
mispronouncing it.
No, you're pronouncing it correctly. She did have a condition called anasarca.
Could you explain what that is?
Anasarca is a condition where the body swells, fluid seeping into all tissues. It is a terminal condition which may arise for a multiple of reasons, but its presence tells you that the organs have failed and this person has been in terminal decline for hours before their death. It can be days or weeks depending on the case, but ultimately when the body is swelling like that, it means that the organs have failed.
Doctor, do you have an opinion as to the cause of the death of Luciana Fernandez?
Having reviewed all of the evidence that was provided, the photograph, the autopsy protocol, the circumstance of the case, which is clearly very important to us, the cause of death in this case was determined to be drowning. I would agree with that. I would have used slightly different language, complications of drowning, but that's a style, not a difference of opinion.
Why would you say complications of drowning as opposed to drowning?
I use that term if the person, if you retrieve the heart function, depending on the circumstance, if the heart function is restored, technically they're still alive. However, the consequences of the damage done for whatever is the initial insult cannot be overcome, and therefore it ultimately causes the death. So I call it a complication of it. It could be blunt force trauma, it could be gunshot wounds, but in this case, it's drowning.
Would you please describe the evidence of medical intervention that was done to try to keep Ms. Fernandez alive?
Objection, Your Honor. 401, 403.
Well, There were many things done. So once she was recovered from the water, attempts at CPR were initiated. They were quite aggressive, as you would expect it to be. It was quite sustained. It went on for quite a period of time, from time of retrieval to transfer to hospital. On arrival to hospital, these attempts continued at resuscitation, which included attempts to restart the heart, which were successful. They would have done many other things, taken blood samples, added fluids, and so on. Got an airway, which is putting in a tube to start allowing for oxygen to be put back into the lungs. So all of these are done as part of resuscitation.
After Ms. Fernandez died and her body was transported to the office of the medical examiner, will there be a photograph known as the receiving photograph?
Yes.
Can you explain what that is, please?
On arrival, the body or patient or person is photographed as we received it. Literally, the way it came in, we take a photograph so that we document this is how we received the person.
When Ms. Fernandez was brought to the office of the medical examiner, did she have injuries that were consistent with sustained attempts at or sustained amounts of CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation?
She did.
Can you describe what you're talking about?
The main injuries that you have present, which are common in CPR, are fractured ribs. We see it a lot. And the older you are, the more likely you are to have fractured ribs. Young people tend to do a bit better, but in CPR, it's not a criticism of anyone. They're doing their best. It's a very emotional event. You're trying to recover someone. Sometimes people press too hard, and they regret ribs.
Showing counsel states 1T for identification. Doctor, I'm showing you states 1T for identification. Do you recognize this photograph?
I do.
And aside from the fact that the breasts of the individual in this photograph are pixelated, does this fairly and accurately depict the body of Luciana Fernandez at the time that she was autopsied?
It does.
At this time, I move states 1T for identification into evidence.
Objection.
State Exhibit 1T, previously marked for identification, will become State Exhibit 115.
May the doctor stand down?
Yes.
Doctor, can you please point out the location of the injuries that you're talking about that would be consistent with her having sustained CPR?
To the center of the chest, you'll see a red mark, a red abrasion, and that's very typical of the device. It's called a Lucas device.
Called a what device?
Lucas, L-U-C-A-S, Lucas device. It will artificially compress the chest, and it will cause abrasions. They are not itself harmful. A reflection of you cannot see broken ribs, of course, but there are broken present. And on her right arm, you see an ivory axis.
Did Ms. Fernandez have any injuries to her head?
Yes.
Can you describe those injuries, please?
So she has a pink abrasion on the left side of her forehead, which was 1 by 0.5 centimeters. She had hemorrhage coming from both her nose, nears, N-A-R-E-S. She had a faint blue contusion on the bridge of her nose. She has an abrasion and bruising to the right side of her mouth. Lower lip was swollen. The right side of the inside of her gum, called the labial, L-A-B-I-A-L, mucosa, M-U-C-O-S-A, had bruising or contusions. They're also present on the lower aspect, so the upper and lower part of her inside of her mouth. The ventral aspect of the left side, that's the top of her left side of her tongue, also had a bruise. She had bruising present on the right side, left side, and on the front of her scalp. So in this area, she had bruising. And the right temporalis muscle, which is on the right side of your head, had also bruising. And there was bruising on the left side of the temporalis, which is on the left side of the head.
The bruising to her head, is that consistent with what's known as blunt force trauma?
In this case, it's likely. I have not seen any other particular reason why it should be there.
Did Ms. Fernandez have any injuries to her neck area?
She did. On the posterior aspect, the back of the neck, high up in the first cervical vertebrae, there's focal hemorrhage. So deep in the back of the neck, if you go into the deep muscles, there was bruising right there, up high at the top of the neck.
Are you able to make any extrapolation of the fact that she had the bruising across the top of her head and then the bruising high up on the base of her neck?
You would have to take several things together. There's bruising on the right side as well of the mouth, and there was a thing called surgical emphysema, which is air present on the right side of the mouth. There's bruising to the head, and there's bruising to the back of the neck, deep. To me, would suggest in this case that when the incident occurred, most likely was propelled forward, striking possibly the front of her face or head, which compressed the neck.
Were there any injuries to Ms. Fernandez's torso, meaning the front and or her back?
Yes. On the lower aspect of her left side of her back, there were red abrasions. Towards the middle of the lower back, there's also abrasions. And on the right buttock or gluteal region, there's also abrasions.
For the record, I'm showing counsel states 1, U for identification. Doctor, I'm showing you states 1, U for identification. Does this fairly and accurately depict the body or the back part of the body of Ms. Fernandez when she was autopsied?
It does.
This time I move states 1, U for identification and evidence.
Same objection. Same objection.
State Exhibit 1U, previously marked for identification, will become State Exhibit number 116.
Doctor, could you step down for a moment, please? Around Ms. Fernandez's back, we see it seems to be some level of discoloration. Can you explain to the members of the jury what we might be looking at here?
This is called postmortem lividity or discoloration. So when we pass away, our circulation stops, blood will settle out of the blood vessels in the line of gravity. So if you're lying on your back and you pass away, and you continue lying on your back for a number of hours, the blood will settle towards gravity. So that discoloration is that red blood cells coming out of blood vessels and settling into tissue.
Did Ms. Fernandez also have any blunt force injuries to her arms or her legs?
She did. She had several bruises to her upper arms, left and right. She also had abrasions to her right hip on the right side. There were also a number of bruises and abrasions on both lower legs, left and right.
was an internal examination conducted on
Yes.
Ms. Fernandez's body.
Yes, it was.
Can you explain what that how that type of an internal examination would be conducted?
So the autopsy has many aspects. First of all, you get the information that is available at the start, so that would be the equivalent of your primary care doctor reviewing your chart before you go to examine you. The second part is that we do the external examination, so you're looking for signs of natural disease, injuries, clues to give you some idea of what you might be dealing with. And then we move to an internal examination, and the internal examination involves getting access to the body to examine all of the organs. That's all of them, from brain, neck, chest, abdomen. We go through all of your organs in detail, looking for disease, injuries, or clues as to why this person may have passed away.
Were the findings both from the external and internal examination of Ms. Fernandez's body consistent with her having blunt force trauma, perhaps to the head, and then subsequently drowning if she was in water?
Yes, so drowning is a diagnosis of exclusion. There is nothing in an autopsy that you will do and point your finger and go, aha, this is drowning. Drowning is a diagnosis of exclusion. It means that you must have ruled out other causes for the death. If I may explain. Anybody could be in water swimming, walking, and have a heart attack, for example. If the heart attack is your cause of death and you happen to be in water, then it's not that you drowned, it's that you've suffered an event which has put you in a dangerous environment. So that's the reason why. We also would look at to make sure you're not intoxicated or there's some other reason that you didn't get out of the water. So once you have ruled out other causes, and the only thing you're left with is the environment where the person was found, in this case underwater, in the result of an event that happened with a boat, we can reasonably conclude that, having ruled everything else out, that the cause of death is drowning.
Now, was a toxicology screening conducted of Ms. Fernandez's blood?
Yes, all cases get screening.
The blood sample that was used, was that ante-mortem or post-mortem, meaning prior to death or after death?
It was ante-mortem.
Was the tube of blood that was analyzed, or tubes of blood that were analyzed in this matter, dated and given a time?
Yes, they all are when they're ante-mortem. And in this case, it was the September 4, 2022, and the hour was 20 hours and 28 minutes, which is 28 minutes past 8 p.m.
And was the packaging of those tubes of blood consistent with the blood having been drawn at a hospital?
Yes.
What were the results of that toxicology testing?
A comprehensive screen for drugs and alcohol was performed, as is in all cases, and in this case there were no drugs or alcohol detected.
Now, if that's the case, does that rule out the possibility that Ms. Fernandez could have consumed alcohol earlier that day?
It does not, no.
Okay. Can you explain to the jurors why it might be possible that she could have consumed alcohol earlier in the day, yet by the time 8:30 rolls around, no alcohol is found in her body?
Objection 401, 403.
Come sorry.
Dr. Garavan, are any of the injuries that Ms. Fernandez sustained as a result of this boating crash fatal in and of themselves?
I would not think so.
If that's the case, then why did she die?
It's the environment that she was in. According to the information provided, is that there was a boating event or incident, and as a result of this, she was thrown from the boat, was under the boat or trapped under the boat. The injuries that are present, particularly to the head, the mouth, her neck, and to her forehead and sides of head. I think it's very possible that she may have been knocked unconscious, at least, particularly with the neck injury. It tells me from experience a lot of force went through her head. So if you take into account the speed and the laws of momentum, that if she was thrown forward, that means she struck whatever she struck at that speed and then immediately went into water. If she's unconscious, and there's no reason to think that she was inhibited in any other way, then within a few minutes, if she's not recovered from that environment and brought to land or has access to breathe, she will succumb to lack of oxygen. Effectively, that's what happens to you when you are underwater and when you drown.
No further questions.
No questions, Judge. Your excuse, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
One moment, please. Your Honor, at this time, the state of Florida rests its case, having proven the elements beyond a reasonable doubt.
All right. All right, given the time, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to end for the day. The state is now rested. Please put your notepads inside your envelopes. We have to return tomorrow. Please be here at 9:15, 9:30 tomorrow. As you were able to do so today, if you run into any difficulties, traffic issues, or any kind of problems, please let us know. All right, please contact the office and keep us informed as to your time. And 9:30 tomorrow, report to the jury room on the 7th floor. I remind you, please do not discuss this case at all with each other or with anyone else. Don't let anyone try to speak with you or in your presence about the case. If you think you see or hear anything, social media, television, newspaper, ignore it. Okay? If anyone attempts to speak with you, as I already said, about the case, please remind them you're on a jury, not to speak with them. If they persist, report that to Renee. We will bring it to my attention. If you see us, we're going to also continue to ignore you. And all of us are invested in maintaining the integrity of these proceedings. Tomorrow we should have a pretty full day. And again, I'll have you back at 9:30. As the court will please take the envelopes, you have your notepads inside the envelopes, take them with you and give them to Renee. Thank you.
All rise.